Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Welcome to episode 154 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you very much for joining me as this is the last episode of 2021. Woohoo! Happy New Year, everyone. Yes, I had it was a mixed bag this year. Really, really mixed bag. And we're going to be talking all about the year 2021 in this episode. It is a mixed bag in this episode as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun to go over the year. If there was a year of super huge highs and really low lows, 2021 would be it. I will say that it certainly wasn't as weird or as ugly as 2020. Thankfully so. So that's good, but it did have its moments. Races are back, sort of, and we runners are very happy about that, for the most part anyway. I mean, things aren't really back to normal, obviously, as some races are still canceled, and in many areas you still can't do it, while others races dates are strangely placed on the same dates as other popular races, or they're all bunched together. Like the New York Marathon and the LA Marathon took place on the same day in November. That was really weird. The Boston Marathon also took place in November, which was also very weird. I think it's going to be back to normal in the spring, thankfully, in 2022. It doesn't belong in November. I know some runners are saying, this is great, we should have it here every year. Well, no. That's not where it belongs. It belongs where it belongs on Patriots Day. That's what it's about. Okay. Anyway, so I know in some places you still don't have races, which I don't understand. I mean, it's one thing to be cautious, but it's another thing to be overly hyper cautious, weird, paranoid, and just keep everyone if you keep people from doing activities, if you keep people from living their lives, you're not helping them. So I know this is my opinion. This is only my opinion. It's my show. I get to have an opinion. If you get people outside doing healthy things, you're helping them. It's helping. Depression is real. Depression is as deadly as any virus. Depression can lead to a lot of things. So it's time to get people out and to get people in races and running and doing things outside. It's much healthier. All right, so enough of that. But I know that even with that, they are canceled in some areas, but in other areas, they're back in full force. I know some people aren't signing up for races because they're afraid they're going to be canceled, and that's really sad. We really are living in the twilight zone. But with that said, I wanted to start out and mention some standouts from 2021. Okay, my book of the year, I haven't done this on the show before, but I will now. My book of 2021 was Cory Reese's Stronger Than the Dark. This is an incredible book. For any book, regardless of whether it's a running book or not, this is an awesome book. It's a running book, sure, but it's much more than that. It tackles bigger issues than running. It's about change. It's about overcoming depression and finding a new place in one's life. It's about Cory changing his life, changing his place in this world. And it's heavy. Yeah, it is. But it also has that positive spirit that's present in all of Cory's books. There were so many quotes that I could have read from the book. It was really hard to choose, but I wanted to find something that was really meaningful, and I found this one about depression. The tricky thing is that when depression is at its worst, you feel like you don't have the energy to fight back. A lot of times, you don't even have the desire to fight back. As hard as it is, you have to make a conscious choice to do it anyway. Otherwise, Depression will slowly and meticulously draw the life out of you. And that's straight from the book of Corey Reese, Stronger Than the Dark. And if you haven't read it yet, you really must read it. It's just incredible. All right, comeback of the year is Tommy Rivers Puzey, and how could I not give it to him? He's just such an icon. He's such. If you don't know who Tommy is, just look up Tommy Rivers on Instagram or Twitter, or follow his page on Facebook. Tommy is an ultra runner, but he's been battling a very rare form of cancer for the last couple of years. He hasn't run for a couple of years. And this year, and we thought we were going to lose him. He was in a coma. He was fighting it. And then he has slowly and surely gotten better. He decided to walk the New York Marathon this year. It's just incredible. So I followed him on the race as much as I could. And I was just awed by him walking the New York Marathon. I'm just so inspired and just so in awe. I know I keep saying that, in awe of his courage and strength of him walking the whole length of the race. Just amazing. After almost losing his life, and it just, the cancer hit him so quickly. No one was, I'm sure he wasn't prepared for it at all either. Well done. And never say quit attitude. This will go to our friend Tony Wynn. Tony's been on the show a couple times, and he just doesn't stop. Nothing stops him. DNF doesn't stop him. Nothing stops him. Tony races nearly every weekend. And many times, those weekends take him across the country. He did a race in Texas just recently. He does races just in the Bay Area, but he'll travel. He'll travel 2,000 miles and be back to work. He's just crazy. And it's always exciting to see where he's racing next and to hear how his races go. He's been on my show, and he talked about did not finishes, DNFs, and he's had many of them. He's done a few 100-mile races that he had to do like 2 or 3 times before he finished them. And he never stops. He doesn't stop. If he can't finish a race, he'll go back and do it 1 or 2 times or 3 times in one race, I remember. And it never stops him from signing up for the next race. Faster than a speeding bullet, Corey Woltering. Now, we don't always have elites on the show. We usually have back of the pack or middle of the pack runners. But sometimes we'll have elites on, especially cool people like Corey. Corey has been on the show. He was on the show talking about his Ice Age Trail, fastest known time in Wisconsin last year. And he talked about that. And then this year, he also did the FKT, fastest known time, for the Pinhoti Trail in Alabama. As a matter of fact, I just saw that he was back there. He was back there just recently, or he is there now, to run some more on it. I don't know. He's all over the place all the time. So he's never afraid to try an extremely difficult race, even if it means that he won't finish. He's dropped out of plenty of races. I know he tried to do the Cocodona 3 weeks after he did the FKT for the Pinhoti, but he wasn't ready for it because he dropped out pretty early in the Cocodona race. And that's an extremely tough race. And the conditions are like the exact opposite of the Pinhoti. It's dry and hot with lots of elevation, and the Pinhoti is humid and hot and no elevation. So it's completely different environment. So yeah, he was still tired out from his FKT, and nothing to be ashamed of. It just makes him more awesome that he'll try hard stuff all the time. So bravo, and I know he's going to do amazing stuff next year. So go, Corey. And Keep Amazing Us award goes to Courtney Dahlwalter. And Courtney, not only did she win the UTMB in 2021, after coming in first place in 2019, they canceled the race in 2020, but she also attempted the Barkley Marathons this year. She finished 2 laps, which is nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to sneeze at. Anyone who finishes 1 lap of that really difficult race is amazing in my book. And this year, the weather was horrible. I mean, nobody finished all four this year. No one did. I think the last person dropped out after 3 laps. It was fun looking at her pictures, and in every picture she was smiling. So I think they just made it really as fun as possible and just kind of laughed their way through it, even though it was hellish, I'm sure. She also came in first in the Sawatch Ascent and the West Line Winder as well. And she doesn't like all races. She smiles her way through. So she absolutely loves what she does. And in the last award that I have, well, no, I have 2 more. But the last award for a person I have is, and what did you do at 21 category? Goes to Stefan Fiandiero. You know, I wasn't doing anything of any value at 21. I don't know about you. But Stefan, not only did he finish the Cocodona 250-mile race at 20 years old, but he just finished, just like last week, finished 156.2 miles on a treadmill in 48 hours at 21 years old. So yeah, I don't know about you, but that's way more than anything I did at 21. Well done, Stefan. You keep just surprising us with all of your achievements. You just are a powerhouse. So speaking of the Cocodona 250, I will say that is the race of 2021. It had stellar camera coverage, including drone views and studio coverage for it was on for like 3 days. So for all 3 days of coverage from Aravaipa Studios in Phoenix, it was amazing. And I hear that next year they're going to have studio all camera coverage for all of the days until all the racers finish. Martha, speak. So I think that's going to be great. And maybe I should take the week off work and watch it from home. Just get a whole bunch of popcorn and stuff and sit and watch it. It's just such a fun time. I mean, there's the Tour de France, and then there's a Cocodona 250. So yeah, I love it. I love it. Such a fun race. Okay, I asked the Martha Runs the World listeners to add some of their own greatest 2021 running memories, and here's what they had to say. Now, Adwait Samant, who's been on the show as a guest, he achieved his goal of 100 half marathons, and Adwait runs a lot. He loves the half, and running 100 of them is proof. Well done on your first 100, and I want to celebrate your next 100. So yeah, woohoo, good going. Now, Dennis Howard, who's a big fan of the show, he was one of the first listeners of the show, so he's been a fan for a very long time. He had open heart surgery in May and ran the Boonville Backroads 10K 3 months later. 3 months! 3 months after open heart surgery. Dennis, you are a rock star. Wow. Good going, Dennis. That is spectacular. Lisa Bandy has also been a long-time listener. She's working her way to completing half marathons in all 50 states. And when she does, I want her to have her on the show. So Lisa, if you're listening, I want you on the show when you finish all 50 states. It's fun following her progress, too. She power walked the Rehoboth Beach race and beat her previous record by 13 minutes. Well done, Lisa. Carlos Castilla works out 365 days a year. He's an old-time ultra runner. He lives up in beautiful British Columbia, and sometimes he runs, sometimes he hikes or cycling, but he's out there every single day and shares the beautiful pictures of the area that he lives, and we're all jealous of him. It's an incredible place. It really is. Tricia Jones-Blau has done some races, but her biggest challenge is with her adorable golden retriever pup, Biscuit. I love Biscuit. Biscuit is a wonderful, loving dog. He's a great, big love bug. She's teaching him to run Canicross, and so they're going to do great in some of the races coming up next year. I know that. I want to see pictures of it. I want to be there and cheer for them, and I know they're going to do great. And Michael Tatham and Lois, his wife, moved to Las Vegas last month. Now, Michael has been a terrific running buddy who helped keep my spirits up when I lost my job during the COVID lockdown last year. He was the one who got me out of the house and onto the trails when they were all locked down and we weren't supposed to be there. But we went there anyway, because who cares? It's good to be out of the trails, and that's what we did. And now he's out there discovering the trails in the beautiful parks near Las Vegas and Red Rock, I'm sure, and up in the mountains up there. And no doubt he's finding great trails in those areas. And if you know him, you know he's doing his best to stay away from the mother-in-law. All right. Annette Costas Bissinger has been hard at work improving her running, and I see that every day. She's also been on the show. She actually is one of the spokespeople for the Ragnar races. She was on the show talking about Ragnar. She didn't give up during the October marathon and finished within 6 minutes left to the cutoff. Good for her. She also finished her third 50K in November, cutting 13 minutes from her time. Well done, Annette. Well done. And Lupe Estebanes trained and ran the virtual Boston Marathon this year. Awesome job, Lupe. And she's an old-time listener of the show. She's been listening for a long time. And Anthony Bailey. Anthony's been on the show, and he's just improved his life so much from what it used to be. He ran without training. Oh, Anthony. The Skid Row Runners Annual River Run, which is a 54-mile race in LA. It was last minute, an amazing experience, he said. Hopefully next year he'll get some training in before the race. I hope so. Okay, Beth Hefner, she is a super walker, and she's been on the show before. Walked 5 races in 4 weeks. She placed third in her age group in a half marathon and second in a 5K. She also had a walking streak going for a long time, but says that it got her injured, so now she's working with a physical therapist to heal up from piriformis issues so she can rock a 50K she has next June. So yeah, get better, Beth. We want to see pictures, and we want to hear all about your 50K. Okay, my own report of 2021, you probably heard it if you've listened to the show, obviously. It didn't start out great. I was in a lot of pain. I had been in a lot of pain for a while. I kept moving as long as I could. I used to go out like once a week with my friend Michael. We would go up to the Headlands or to Hutter Park up by the Redwoods in San Mateo County. I would walk as far as I could, and then I head back to the car. He would always run farther, and I would wait for him. The last walk I took with him, I believe, was either probably, I think, in July, probably June, and it was 3 miles, and it was very, very painful. And I said, if I can't do 3 miles, then I can't go out anymore. And I'm going to say that was July. And so that was the last walk that I took, and it was just awfully painful. And then I just would walk, and then I just quit going on the trails, because if you can't do 3 miles, then what's the point? Then I kept my walks to like around town and stuff like that. I just stopped going out there. And then then it was like walking a mile was painful, and then walking a block was painful, and everything was just super, super painful until my surgery. So then I had my surgery, and then it was painful for a few weeks. But now, no pain at all. No pain at all. Now, I do kind of my muscles do get sore after. Now, I had my 5-mile walk, and my muscles did get sore. My hamstring muscle got sore after 5 miles, but that's after 5 miles, and that can be remedied. I can make my hamstring stronger, but it wasn't like awful, awful pain where you can't stand it anymore. So these things, it's different. I can get stronger. I can get my muscles stronger. I can go longer. I can go farther. It just takes time to strengthen my muscles and to get my body strong enough to go farther. That's a different thing. That's way different than intense pain walking a block. That's way different. So that's how my year ended. And that's how 2020 is beginning. So, pretty big difference, I would say, wouldn't you? Now, in 2021, the Martha Runs the World podcast covered a lot of topics. Some are very familiar, and many running podcasts cover the topics. These include the history of Badwater 135 race, beginning running, the Dipsea Trail, long-term injuries. These are pretty familiar, and I'm sure other podcasts have covered these. I try to look at it at a different light, maybe do it from a different aspect that other podcasts do. But I also cover subjects that are interesting to runners that other running podcasts may not talk about. And these included through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, the effects of social media on running, race photography, and Skid Row marathon running. So these were other topics that I talked about that other podcasts may not talk about. I listen to a lot of podcasts, including other running podcasts, and I try to do things a little differently because who wants a cookie cutter podcast that sounds like everything else? Because why would you listen to me if it sounds like everything else? It doesn't. I try to make it interesting to all runners of all abilities, including those of us who struggle to make cutoff times. I don't just interview elites. I like elites. I love them like I love all runners. But there are tons of great podcasts out there who interview elites, and that's pretty much who they only interview. And they're awesome. They have huge listener audience base that I don't have. And they have better production. They have editors who do all the editing. I do it all myself, as you probably can guess. But they have crews that and advertisers, and they have all kinds of gear and merch and all that fun stuff. I don't have any of that. So, I have some merchandise, but I don't have a whole lot. So why would you listen to me when you could listen to the elites on their show? But that's not what I do. I would rather interview a back of the pack runner because they're just as interesting, and nobody really pays attention to back of the pack runners for the most part. They're kind of like the forgotten runner. They pay most of the bills. They pay the runners entry fees. There are more of them paying runners entry fees than in the front of the pack, and I find them more relatable, to be honest. I can relate to a runner who fears being pulled from a race because they didn't make cutoff time more than I can a runner who runs a 6-minute mile, to be honest. But I love them all. I love all runners of all abilities, and that's why I try to have a nice balance on the show. I have road runners, I have trail runners, I have ultras, and I have runners who just do 5Ks. So why not? And I've had a couple runners who also do triathlons. Because why not? Have a good mix of people. I think that's a great thing to have. I like having a wide variety of people, and I will continue to do that next year. I'll talk more about 2022 next week when we go forwards. I have a race on New Year's Eve. I'm going to walk New Year's one-day race. I don't know how far I'm going to go. My goal is to do 7 miles. I hope to do 7 miles. My physical trainer does not want me to do 10 miles. She said, don't push it too far. So I don't know. We'll see. I've only done as far as 5 miles so far. So if I do 7 miles, I'll be happy with that. Maybe 8. I don't know. If I feel good, maybe 10, but my physical trainer doesn't want me to go that far. So if I go that far, I can't tell her. I cannot tell her. Okay. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm just being foolish and foolhardy to think that I can. I always think I can go. Sometimes I always think I can go farther than I do. So we'll see. We shall see. But coming up in next year, and these are just things, and I'm going to talk about more on the subject in the next show, which I will have a race report on. But more on the subject coming up next year. I'm going to obviously have great interviews with spectacular people. I'm going to have I'm going to have fun and fascinating topics. I'm also beginning a series on YouTube for new beginning runners, and just beginning runners, not people who are great athletes and just want to start running. These are brand new beginning runners who have not run before, or maybe who only ran 20 or 30 years ago. This is just a brand new series I'm starting in mid-January on YouTube. It's fully free, and I'll put out a new video once a week, 5-10 minutes in length, just to help you along. And on Patreon, I'm going to, if you sign up for Patreon, I'll read your name on the show, on the regular show. There will be more member content exclusive only for Patreon patrons. If you give, there's $2, $5, $10 level. If you give, you will get this exclusive content. If you give at the $5 and $10 level, you'll get swag. And I'm going to have new merch in 2022. Okay, and I'll talk about that more next week. And this is the show. So, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful 2022. And tell me all about your New Year's Eve races, too, because I'd love to hear, or your New Year's Day races, because I'd love to hear about it. And we can add it to Tales of the Trail in an upcoming show. All right? Email me, martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And for all info on the show, the website is martharunstheworld.com. All right? And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.